Phenomenology is to see and understand in a subjective mind, whereas to science has an objective. It allows us to understand the nature of place and home. It defines the way in which humans invest their meaning in these places. Phenomenology allows us to express the essence of our existence through architecture, connecting the relationship of human existence and the world. In architecture, phenomenology is the focus on site and place, material authenticity, and sensory experience, details that relate to human experience. Edmund Husserl, in his writings about phenomena, brought about the philosophy of the experience in the world, purely being human conscious. His student of Husserl, Martin Heidegger, conceptualizes the relationship between human experience and the connection to place and home, building, dwelling, thinking, to be, to dwell, to build. Finnish architect Juhani Palasma adopts these ideas that Husserl and Heidegger express. His contribution was going beyond the simple oculocentric view of architecture, which is the prioritization of form and visual. We see Palasma's famous summer house, later recognizable in Alvar Aalto's work. He questions how a building appeals to our feelings and senses of familiarity and pleasure to some. How few modern buildings appeal to how an anonymous house in an old town gives us these senses. He points towards architectural form and architectural experience. Heidegger points out and questions the emotive element, how some buildings are seen and some buildings are connected with. The experiences among primary feelings produced by architecture connects to the site to create memories and these moments in architecture. Alvar Aalto's experimental house, his summer house, also a Finnish architect and designer as well as a sculptor and painter, a philosophical man touching simplicity, natural materials, volume of composition, and the attention for detail, all promoted by Heidegger and Palasma. He explores the potential, various sizes, bonds, and patterns, a strong insight by Palasma, experimental house testing for technical durability and aesthetic effects. Free brick form construction, solar heating, free form column structures. Aalto being one of the key architects who practices in phenomenology with detail and material, his materials and sense of architecture as a whole is taken to invoke a focus on the essence of a site, spirit of sight. Aalto's experimental house, the way he created the place, and it responds to sight, the way it uses material in the bricks, the local materials connected with Palasma's theme on creating moments and a spirit of sight, seen in the genius loci, theorized by Christian Norbert Schultz. The primary focus on human experience, sensation and feeling, versus the visual building, shape and form, the oculocentric. Questions on whose experience, whose feelings, and whose memories do we design for. The phenomenology engages with tectonics as the poetics of a construction detail. Christian Norbert Schultz, a Norwegian architect and architectural theorist, states, detail explains the environment and makes its character manifest. Observing this intangible phenomenon in his theory of genius loci, where the spirit of place denotes essence of space and connects human-place relationships, enclosure to safety, to home, to dwelling, stripping architecture down to its most basic necessity. These qualities, Heidegger says, is essential to dwelling, as he defines the tectonics as a Greek word tekne for craft and art, the art of crafting, the action of making. The experimental house resonates a strong sense towards organic form and the incorporation of natural materials. A collage of different types of ceramic bricks arranged on the north wall involve numerous different textures, varying by size and area. No arrangement is repeated. The individual experiences the rich color of the brick setting itself apart from the deep pine surroundings. The material itself flows down the wall and across the ground. A complete isolation from humanity. Split white walls orientated to the west. A small entrance hall and the corridor that surrounds the courtyard arrives at an open space. The experimental space is evident in quality as geometric shape in the texture of the elements that make the figure. The patio is the resulting vacuum of the four planes. The manipulation of space, materials, light and shadow in Alvar Aalto's experimental house extrapolates the connection to place and influences conscientious and experiences explored by key philosophers Edmund Husserl, Martin Heidegger, Juhani Palasma and Christian Norbert Schultz. Thank you.